So, a while back, I made a video called The True Hero of Death Note with my buddy Kihokai1994. We basically had a fun back and forth in the video and talked about who we thought was the hero of this series, and, we brought up kind of both sides of the argument, and the comments we got were really interesting. I'm not saying, this isn't anything negative. In fact, I'm actually happy we got a lot of people's input because it kind of inspired me to make this video. The different perspectives that I was hearing was very interesting. Like, many people thought Light was right. Many people thought he was a sociopath. There were plenty of people who preferred Nier. I am a bit sorry for, I guess, kind of excluding Nier because I feel he didn't get enough development to be called a hero, because a good portion of the series mostly focuses on Light and L. That's a big battle, and after that it's just kind of Light versus everyone else. So that rivalry wasn't really there, so I didn't really put Nier in that category. But for anyone that's on his side, I'm sorry for kind of shrugging you off. I meant that as a joke, but I didn't realize people would take it seriously, so I'm sorry if it may have offended anybody. But regardless, let's just talk about Light Yagami specifically, because he was the one that garnered a lot of attention. I had made a previous video about Light Yagami that also got a ton of people's input, and this character is just so interesting to talk about that why don't we discuss whether he's a hero or a villain. So this video isn't going to be basically a restating all the points I made. Of course, if you saw that previous video, great. If you didn't, that's fine. I still would advise, you go listen on your free time, but that won't correlate too much with this discussion because this one's just really about Light and whether he's a villain. The other one was talking about who is the true hero. I gave sides for why Light is a hero and why Light's a villain, but I didn't go too in detail for how and why he might be a villain. There's also one possibility that me and my friend didn't really address in that video, but I will kind of address it here, which a lot of people brought it up in the comments, which, thank you for that. There were too many people, so I can't really say any specific names, but, you know who you are. So, let's start off with what a villain is. I guess just going off Wikipedia or any general definition. Of course, everything is subjective, whether you think one way or you think another, but I think everyone can kind of come to reasonable standing for what this definition is. The villain is usually the antagonist, although sometimes can be the protagonist. He's the character who tends to have a negative effect on others. I think this could really work well with Light Yagami. This is why I saw Light Yagami personally as the villain, because when I say like my top 5 favorite anime villains, like if someone asks me, Light is usually in my top 2, because he's just, I feel, such a complex, such a great character, and the stuff that he goes through are something that I feel he fits that category of villain. The only reason why people are against it is because he's the protagonist. Like it said in that definition, the villain can be the protagonist. A villain, it's more often than not the antagonist, yes, but a villain is someone with malicious intent. A villain is someone who's trying to have a negative effect on others, and I feel Light definitely has this. Sure, he had a goal in mind when he was starting out, but Light slowly became, actually not even slowly, like in the first episode he kills a ton of people. Light becomes a murderer, look at it or not, okay, and death is not really justified, to be honest, especially killing specifically. I guess one could sort of make the argument that, okay, they're criminals, whatever, but let's be real, that evolved into something far worse, to where just anyone who didn't even deserve the death penalty still, died, and everyone in the world was now scared. They were living in this fear, and would you guys really consider fear a positive effect? Absolutely not. So I think Light's negative effect on the world is what makes him a villain, in my eyes at least. And I mentioned this in the previous video about Death Note, and I'll say it again. There's a quote from The Dark Knight which I really like: you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So a villain can start out as maybe having decent intentions, but they can still evolve into a villain, and you can't really call someone like the Joker a hero because, they may have been heroic earlier in their lives. It's all about what's going on at that current moment in time, and at the end of Light Yagami's life, we saw he was evil till the end. He was not heroic. So that's why I still consider Light Yagami a villain. But addressing, I guess, something else, which I think Light could also be, again, this video will be more so an open question. Of course, I'm going to be giving my perspective, but I'm also going to be interested in hearing your guys' what you think this is. Next up, we have an anti-hero. An anti-hero, this is the one thing I didn't address in my previous video of what Light is or, isn't. I was mostly talking about whether he's a villain or a hero. I don't think many people can argue that he's a hero. I mean, he's a hero in his story because, look, the story is basically told from Light Yagami's perspective, and one could see him as the hero, because the hero of one story might be the villain of another. For example, in, let's say, a series like One Piece, Doflamingo was portrayed as this horrible, terrible person who's went through a lot and is overall an antagonizing figure. Whereas if, let's say, One Piece was told in the story of Doflamingo's perspective, we might begin to feel for this character a little more, and we may see someone like Luffy as the main villain. Like I said, it's all based on perspective, but I still feel, even though this was in Light's perspective, his villainous intent and his villainous effects were clear enough. Okay, bias aside, it's pretty clear, so you can't really justify him being a hero. He's a protagonist, yes, but that doesn't mean he's heroic, he's brave, he has a heart, come on, he's a savage. So without further ado, let's just get into the anti-hero. An anti-hero is a protagonist in a story who lacks, kind of heroic qualities, and even though they may do the right thing here and there, they don't really do it with good intent. If anything, it's more accidental. So they're kind of that in-between gray area, and Light does definitely fit this category because, okay, I will say he definitely does not have those heroic qualities, we know, but he is a protagonist. Then you also got to bring up the question, villains can also be protagonists, so which one is he? I feel with the several actions that we see, it's not really... He's never really done the right thing more often than not. He has stopped some wars as Kida, he has done some things here and there, but for the most part, I feel the negative just outweighs the good, to where Kida's become so prominent that it's affected the world. You could argue in a bit of a good way, but it's mostly putting them in fear, rather than actual, I guess, peace. Fear, that's kind of a different thing right there. So I feel Light Yagami still has those aspects of a villain. Look what he did to that one woman in around like the episode 6 mark, where he basically just killed her right behind her back and she didn't even know it. Look at what he did several times, including his kind of rivalry with L, making him break out of his shell and kind of lose control later words in the series. And ultimately, I feel you can't really justify too many things of Light doing the right thing. He has done it a few times, but like I said, you can't really make up for that if everything else just fits the qualities of a villain, causing many negative effects to others. And I know many of you out there are going to be like, this video is pretty obvious, this video is completely wrong, whatever you may feel, because like I said, this video is entirely based on perspective, because many would see my first Death Note video of how the Death Note ruined Light Yagami's life. Many would see that as no dirt Sherlock, and then many others would see like, okay, I disagree entirely. So you may think that one thing may be blatantly obvious and it might be objective, but this world, we all have different opinions, so what you think may be one thing, someone else might think another thing. That's what creates the whole discussion going on in the comments, and this is what creates the many different perspectives. This is why I feel that Light Yagami is a villain. Many of you probably agree with me, like no dir, but many of you probably still feel the anti-hero. If you think you can justify Light's actions, go for it. Comment section, just be respectful to each other, because at the end of the day, this is a fictional series that does question what you think about the world and what is justice, what is not. Anyways, that's been the video for you all. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed and want to see more Death Note videos like this, I definitely do want to do some more in 2018. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a video. Always post One Piece, Dragon Ball, Death Note, soon to be HunterxHunter, My Hero, plenty of other stuff. And make sure to drop a like if you enjoyed. Like I said, give your thoughts in the comment section, because that's a big thing. Don't be afraid to share your thoughts. It's entirely fine. My comment section isn't like, I'm not the type of guy to completely call your opinion wrong. I'm willing to hear many different perspectives, so don't be afraid to share your opinion in the comments. I'm just saying, be prepared for maybe some people to potentially get on you, and don't worry if it gets too severe, then of course, bans. I'll be handing out bans. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Ninja out. Peace everybody, and have a good day.